Okay, under risk and uncertainty, methods of adjusting for one of the methods of adjusting for risk and uncertainty is the use of the payoff table. And for uncertainty specifically, you want to use also what we call the Maximax, or what you call Maximin, and the Minimax regret table. Minimax regrets. So quickly, just to get an understanding how it works, we will share a question. But before, okay, let's just go ahead. Probably I will interpret the Maximax, Maximin, and Minimax regret, how it works, and how you should interpret them in making your answers. So we look at a question. Look closely to this question. We are looking at question number 2. The question number 2, which talks about Bolu's Beauty Lounge has been operating a concession stand for dogs and sometimes for hot dogs, and sometimes it has unsold stock. Below is the record of sales for the past and reveals the following frequency of sales. So we have the hot dogs, how is demanded, and the number of games. In 5 games, 10,000. In 10 games, you have 20,000. In 30 and in 20 games, you have 30,000 demand for dogs, and in 15 games, you have 40,000 demand. So which means in this difference in games, you can form your probability. But for now, we want to just get to the understanding of how to treat uncertainty, because for probability, we are talking about risk. But now for uncertainty, we are saying uncertainty means you have no information of the past. So therefore, you may want to use the Maximax and Maximin decision rule to decide the best strategy. So based on I read further. They say the hot dog sells for 50 kobo each, but cost vendor 30 kobo each. Unsold hot dogs are given to a local orphanage without charge. So our concern will be on this A. A says prepare a payoff table to represent the 4 strategies of ordering 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 hot dogs operating under uncertainty. That is what you should note. They say operating under uncertainty. So under uncertainty, meaning that if they are operating under uncertainty, I need to help them on the best strategy on the number of units to stock. You will use the Maximax and Minimax regret table. Maximax and Maximin. Then also Minimax regret table. So here, we will need to calculate. The way it works is that we need to know what is the best strategy. Should she stock 10,000, 20, 30, or 40,000 units? There's fluctuation in the market, so she needs to know the best quantity she should keep, because if she keeps excess, she will lose the cost of whatever she has bought, because unsold stock will be thrown away. She had lost some of the stock that she bought in excess. However, if she under stock, it means that she's going to find out that she will lose by not selling to meet up demand. Maybe you have more demand than what you stock. In that case, you lost extra profit she would have made. So the best strategy, first of all, is to prepare your profits, the payoff table, and calculate all possible profits. To calculate all possible profit for 10,000, 20, 30, 40,000. So I've already done the solving, but I'll show us how we arrive at it to make it easy. So I prepared the payoff table here. These are the possible profits. So you can see under the demand here, this is the demand. These are all was demanded. Then she stock also, the market woman stocks. We assume that if she was to also stock the same level of stock, let's recalculate the profit. So we calculated all the profits. How to calculate the profits is what we should look at now. So I have already solved the question, but this is for easy to accelerate this understanding and not spend time solving the question when we can already have it stated and show how the calculation is done. So how is calculation? Let's look at, for instance, let's look at this, how they arrive at this one circled in red. Sorry, okay. So let's look at this item. How we got this 2,000. So we write it properly. So how we got the 2,000 is, remember this, what is the sales? Because we want to calculate the profit. Profit, I'm looking at row 1, column 1. So we said the sales, remember they told us that their sales is 50 kobo, which is 0.5 is 50 kobo, 0.50 multiplied by how many units do they want to buy. Under the demand column, you see the number of units they want to buy is 10,000. And that will give you 5,000. Then you have the cost. They told us that it cost her 30 kobo to buy the stocks, each of them. So for 10,000 units, you can see also I underline. So this is number what is demanded. This is what is demanded, and this is the 10,000 she stock as per what she bought in her way, or what she has in her warehouse. So if we calculate that, that will give us 3,000. So I can calculate profit. That's how we got it to profit of 2,000. That's how we got the profit of 2,000 as a line in red. So let's do the one of column, or rather row 2, column 1. Row 2, column 1. I highlight that in red, which is this. How in this case, you can see that what is demanded is 20,000. But if you also check upwards and what number of units she stocked 10,000. That means she cannot sell more than 10,000. Even though they demanded for 20,000, we cannot sell we cannot sell up to 20,000 because she only went to stock 10,000. So her sales will still be 0.50 times 10,000 units. Even though demand is 20,000 units, she can only sell what she has. So she cannot sell more than what she has. So her stock, she also bought them for 10,000. So that's why we still got our 3,000, giving us 2,000. Let's look at row 3, column 6. Or let's look at row 3, column. Let's look at row 3, column. Row 3, column 3. Row 3, column 3. I underline the profit calculated there. This 6,000. How do we arrive at 6,000? Sales. They demanded. So if you track this column 6, if you track it down to the demand column, you'll find out that 30,000 was demanded, and she stocked 30,000. That means she can meet up the demand. So we calculate 0.5, which is our selling price, times 30,000 demanded, and she has up all these 30,000, so she can sell 30,000. Then the cost 0.53 multiplied by still 30,000. So here is 9,000. Here is 50 kobo, 515,000. So if I define the difference, is 6,000. So that is how we got the profit. So under Maximax rule, how you take, so once you finish calculating all your profits, so we finish calculating all the profit, that's why we rule out this part, meaning that we finish calculating our profits. So now let's use the Maximax decision rule to make our decision and advice. Maximax, the word Maximax, I usually do it like this. Interpret the first three words here and before this. So what this means, interpret this one before you interpret this one. So interpret this first mask first and then interpret this second. So this is saying max, what we like the highest. What is the highest profit in each column? In this first column, the highest profit is 2,000. In the second column, the highest profit is 4,000. That's how we got our 4,000. I like them in green. That's how we got the 4,000. Under column 3, 6,000 is the highest. Under column 4, 8,000 is the highest. So if you check in the Maximax, what I've just done here is to bring out all the maximum. That's what I'm interpreting max first. This first max here, I interpret this max. So it says bring out all the maximum profit. Then among all the maximum, select second. Number 2 says select the best, which is the highest also among all the max. So all these are the maximum in each column. So which is the highest is 8,000. That's why I highlight it in green. So 8,000 is the highest, which means it's the max amongst the max. So you advise that you should stock. That's why we advise here. You can see our advice here. Stock at, for the Maximax, we say stock at 40,000 hot dogs, which has 80,000 naira profit, and that's the highest profit. On the Maximin, you also interpret the mean. The mean means what are all the minimum. Then you now take the max among all the minimum. So the same thing applies here. For same thing applies. What is the max among all of them? What is the minimum rather? Each column, the minimum, in first column, the minimum is 2,000. We still brought out 2,000. Since everything on that column is 2,000, definitely the minimum will be 2,000, the maximum will be 2,000. On the second column is 1,000. Third column minus 4,000. Fourth column, the lower with a minimum is minus 7,000. So out of the minus 7,000, out of all these minimums, we choose the best, which is the max. So when we say we choose we don't mean the maximum doesn't mean the best, the biggest minimum. No, rather it means the best out of all these minimums. So the best, so we say Maximin means best. This one stands for the best out of all the worst cases. So all the minimums, which is like the worst cases, that's what we just brought out, 2,000. That's what we brought out here. Underline here. That's what I'm looking at here. So we have the 2,000, 1,000 minus 4,000 minus 7,000, and the best is 2,000. So we go with this 2,000. We now say she should stock at 10,000 units. That is our information we wrote here. Stock at 10,000 units, which has 2,000 naira profits. So for Minimax regret table, we will quickly run into Minimax regret table. You can always pause, and so it will make it easy. There's a shorter way to calculate Minimax regret table from this table. We can just use this table and prepare Minimax regret table. So let's clean up our board here. Okay. So what we took as the best answers is still highlighted in green using Maximax and Maximin decision rule. So let's look at the third one. The third decision rule to use under uncertainty. The third decision rule we say is Minimax regret table. Okay. So let's look at the Minimax regret table. Change my Minimax regrets. So let's quickly do this one. We still have the same 10,000, 20,000, and 40,000. Remember that at this point there's nothing like probability here, because probability has to do with risk. That is the only time you bring in probability, when you're dealing with risk. But the question says under uncertainty. So remember, under uncertainty, you're looking at this Minimax, Maximax, and Minimax regret, Maximax, Maximin. So how to prepare this Minimax regret table? You can see is a regret. What you regret, probably you should have, if we had known. If you check on the first table we are treated, on this first profit table, remember all of them are payoff tables. On the first profit table we have treated, if you check, you'll see that on first column, this first column highlighted, on this first column, you'll see that the highest here is 2,000, which means when we stock 20,000, demand was 10,000, and we went to stock 10,000, which means we are perfect. That's why we got the highest profit there. And when we went to stock 20,000, see that our profit dropped. When we went to stock 30,000, our profit dropped. We stock 40,000, our profit dropped. Furthermore, so for us to calculate our regret, we regretted stocking. Let's look at the first one. There's no regret because we stock exactly the demand of 10,000. We stock exactly 10,000. So therefore, there's nothing to regret here. We made exactly the highest profit we can make. So put 0. But on the second column, that looking at, let me show off where we are looking at now. So I'll clean up this part. $20. So on the second lane now we are looking at, on the second column. Okay, we are looking at the first row. Let's finish the first row. They demanded for 10,000. We stock at 10,000. We are perfect. So we are saying if we're on the second line, looking at the second column, we are saying if we had known, we should have stocked 10,000, but we went to stock 20. So if you do, so we can see our profit drop to 1,000. Our profit dropped from here to here, dropped to 1,000. So the difference between 2,000 minus 1,000, we lost 1,000. Then if you also check on column, this third column now, if you check that third column, the same thing applied. Third column here. On the third column, I'm still looking at row 1. You can see our profit dropped to minus 4,000. Minus 4,000. Minus 4,000. Minus 2,000. Or let's put it like this: 2,000 minus 4,000. It will give us minus 6,000. So 2,000. The next one, looking at the fourth one now, still under the first row. You can see our loss there we made a loss of minus 7,000. If we had known, we wouldn't have stocked 40,000, but I just stocked 10,000 units and make our highest profit of 2,000. So you now say that 2,000 minus 7,000. So 2,000 minus 7,000. It gives you minus 11,000, minus 9,000 rather, equals to minus 9,000. So what we have here is minus 9,000. So basically what we are doing is you are saying the best, this one had the first row had 2,000. So that 2,000 minus 1,000 will give you, for the second row, that 2,000 again minus whatever value you have on the third row will give you the regret of the third row, and the same thing for the, so that's basically how we arrive at it. So we look at the next row. If you look at the next row, second row, which is the highest in the second row here, come to our profit table, which is the highest. The highest in this second row is the 4,000 plus 4,000. I highlight it here. This is positive, 4,000. So for you to get the regret in all other lines is to say 4,000 minus each of them. So you can see that one that has the highest of 4,000, you can see that that's the spot where we stored exactly the same stock quantity of the demand. Demand is 20,000. And we also stock 20,000. That's why that is our highest profit. So to get the regret of all the other items in the other lines, you just say 4,000 minus 2,000, which is, you are saying, if you had known, you should have stocked 20,000, but you went to stock 10,000. So you lost 2,000, which is, we take back, let's still do our calculation. We are looking at the second row now. Since the second row, the highest in the second row is 4,000. So it means 4,000 is the best. So for me to get how to get the regrets, on this second table, what will be my regrets here? At this point, what will be my regrets in this spot? Here, I'm highlighting what will be my regrets here. And remember, we have 4,000 on this row. On that second row, the highest is 4,000. So Of course, 4,000, that's the highest we can ever make, so there's nothing to regret, it's 0. But for the first column, this first column, or rather the first column, yes, of the second row, so it will be 4,000 minus, what is the profit there? The profit there is 2,000. So we are saying on the regret table, I'm working on row 2, column 1. It will be 4,000 minus 2,000, which will give me 2,000. It's a negative. That's what I lost. So everything on this table is negative. This next one, row 2, column 3. Of course, row 2, column 2 is 0. So row 2, column 3 is 4,000 minus 1,000. Just know that your answer is negative 1,000. Row 2, that's 3,000 rather. So that's basically all. So I guess you get the understanding. You can complete the remaining. Let's just do this last one, which is row 2, column 4. Still 4,000 is highest on that row, minus what was we have as the profit in that row is minus 2. Minus 2,000. What do we have? You have minus, of course, minus plus, so 6,000, minus 6,000 here. So we should be able to get all the calculation to do here. Here will be 2,000, 4,000. Here is 2,000. So you can also complete it and see that ensure that you're getting the same answers that I have. Then this is 6,000 minus 4,000, 2,000, negative 0. So that's basically how we got the answers. So you can now take your decision under Minimax regrets. Under Minimax regrets. Under Minimax regrets, let's clean this board. I'm sure you've gotten how we did this calculation, so I can clean here. Or you can rewind, pause, and still check how we arrive at it. Minimax regrets, the word Minimax regrets, the interpretation is minimizing the maximum opportunity cost to be suffered. So minimizing the maximum opportunity cost to be suffered. You try to minimize the maximum opportunity cost. So by this is interpretation. So where are all the maximum opportunity costs on each row? For first row is 6,000. Second row is 4,000. Is the highest opportunity cost. So all the maximum 6,000. Then the last one 9,000. So we try to minimize it now. What is the minimum of all? That's what I mean. Minimize the maximum opportunity cost to be suffered. So it's like somebody who is saying, what is the worst case that can happen? You now set up all the worst cases. You now choose the best out of it. This is a decision taker. So he takes a decision based on, after considering all the worst cases, he now takes, this looks like Minimax regrets. This looks like Maximin. He now takes the worst case. But in this case, we are looking at opportunity costs. So the minimum opportunity cost among all these maximum will be row 2. Let's use something else to mark it. So you now tell her, stock your advice based on this decision rule. Or your decision on this should be advice to stock at 20,000 hot dogs, because that's what will give us the minimum opportunity cost of 4,000. If you have questions, you can drop your questions and I will respond to them. So you can use the same method to answer for any other question you have. Thank you.